I've been a Marvel fan for a long time. I remember Wesley Snipes as Blade, Nicolas Cage as Ghost Rider, Ben Affleck as Daredevil. I remember the X-Men back when they were good, Logan before he was an old man. I remember the Punisher torturing people with popsicles. I say all that to say that I've loved the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and it's barreling towards us with Avengers Endgame, and what promises to be an epic entry into the MCU library, with many of our favorite characters completing story arcs that we have endured alongside them for the past decade. And while most people can agree that the MCU on a whole is a beautiful tapestry, a lot of individuals get caught up on the nuances of different movies. We all have our different favorites. We all rate them a different way. Each movie along the way has varied in both style, form, and what it brings to the greater overall cinematic universe. And while some of these are ultimately, brilliant masterpieces in some people's opinions, other ones fall short. Now, if you asked 100 people to list their 1 through 21 Marvel movies, you'd probably get close to 100 different answers. But today, I'm going to give you my list, starting at number 1 and working my way to the bottom, because that middle is really where it gets interesting, guys. So let's go ahead and get started. Number 1, no doubt for me, is Infinity War. Released in 2018, Avengers Infinity War blew away audiences with the scope and immensity of what it was doing and bringing together so many actors, so many storylines, and beginning stage 1 of this grand event that is going to be this Endgame / Infinity War combination. The Avengers, of course, facing one of my all-time favorites in the Mad Titan, Thanos, and the movie was nonstop. It's from the word go. You couldn't catch your breath during this movie. By the end of it, you felt emotionally just drained. And when I walked out of there, the audience I was there with looked shocked as they watched the snap occur. They watched Thor bury the axe. All of that happening, and then you get to see all these brand new characters that you expect to be huge going forward, like T'Challa, Peter Parker, Doctor Strange, and they're all turned to dust. The entire movie is a superhero masterpiece, and it can only ever, in my mind, possibly be topped by the sequel. As grand of a scale as Infinity War was, my number 2 was on a much smaller galactic scale, and I'm talking about Captain America: Winter Soldier. Now, I'm an unapologetic Captain America Steve Rogers fan, and this spy / government conspiracy / trust no one thriller is a movie that from start to finish kept me guessing. I loved it. Released back in 2014, and this was the Russo brothers' first installment into the MCU, and they blew it out of the water, projecting Cap on a story arc that caused him just snub the Accords. Everything that happened with him having a huge issue with the government started in Winter Soldier. It started that story arc. And from there, the introduction of the Winter Soldier, Nick Fury's escape scene, and of course the elevator scene. This movie was fantastic from start to finish, with Cap at the end refusing to fight Bucky dragging him out of the river. It was... I love this movie. Like I said, unapologetic Captain America fan, and that ties right into number 3, which you could probably guess which side I took during Captain America: Civil War. Civil War was another Russo's brother installment, and it was great for many reasons. You didn't just have this villain that was coming straight at the Avengers. He did it in such a way where he ripped them apart using their own secrets, their own lies against them. And obviously, the fracture of the Avengers is a huge reason that Thanos ended up being successful. But the divide between Tony Stark and Steve Rogers, the introduction of new characters in this movie, you get T'Challa, you get Spider-Man. It was awesome. Black Panther, he was seamlessly inserted in this movie. He fit right in. It was well played with him and the attack on the UN and everything. The Spider-Man wasn't as... It was awkward. It felt like a cutscene from the movie, and suddenly Tony Stark is getting this 14-year-old kid to come work for him, and then flying him out of the country secretly. It was kind of weird, but the expanded roster was great. And the movie itself was emotion-filled. It featured the epic airport fight scene. And in the end, you're left there with the Avengers split in half. And Winter Soldier and Captain America hanging out with the rest of the team in Wakanda. And great movie. Great job by the Russo brothers. Love Civil War. My next movie is the first Avengers movie. Not the first Avenger. The Avengers. It's hard to remember that before the Russos brought together 20-plus heroes, the first big installment featured only really 6 of them. And you could throw Nick Fury in there if you want to add 7. The first Avengers movie in 2012, it holds up relatively well. The initial conflict, overcome by this shared tragedy and Agent Coulson's death, Loki being the big baddie, and while I love the scene of the Hulk swinging Loki around like a rag doll, it's actually, and the scene is hilarious, but it's actually kind of anticlimactic in the grand scheme of things for the God of Mischief. He ends up just getting pummeled. But, Tony grabbing the missile, actually the government becomes a bigger problem than the God of Mischief at that point. And Tony grabs the missile and takes it through the portal, and that scene set up so many things going forward for Tony Stark, for the defense of Earth, and for the Avengers. And ultimately, Avengers back from 2012 was an awesome movie. The next 2 are almost interchangeable, but I'm going to go with Captain America, the first Avenger, first. And probably put this higher on my list than most, but I love how this movie focuses on Steve Rogers. Not Captain America, but Steve Rogers, before he was a super soldier. The way they fit the iconic Hitler punch into the movie from the comic books, I love that part. The relationship between Steve Rogers and Agent Carter, Steve's discontent, and his need to always do more. I always remember him drawing the picture of the monkey on the unicycle, and I always wanting to be a soldier. The relationship I already mentioned between him and Peggy Carter, and while the Red Skull felt a little wasted at the end of this, his reemergence during Infinity War felt like a great payoff and a hint at something maybe forward. I love Tommy Lee Jones in this movie. The Howling Commandos are awesome. And the final scene, honestly, well, it's not the final scene of the movie, but the final scene of the flashback before he takes it into the water, when you can see him heading, he's got the nose down on the plane, and he's sitting there talking to Peggy about the dance and the date, the location, all of it. It's so specific that you hope somehow he gets that. Now, I know he got it in the Age of Ultron flashback weird scene, but you don't wonder if they were doing something with that. And, we'll have to see Endgame here very shortly and to find out what happens. Number 6, and like I said, number 5 and 6 are probably interchangeable, and number 6 for me is Iron Man. The movie truly started it all. The billionaire genius playboy ends up captured by the Ten-Ring terrorists. They did a great job of taking the story from the original, the Vietnam one, and moving it to the current time. He escapes to turn it. He ends up wanting to turn his arms empire into doing things that are better for Earth and better for people. And of course, that runs into some problem with Obadiah Stane. The scenes focusing on Tony Stark working on the technology are absolutely amazing. The test flight scenes, his first field test where he takes out the tank, takes out the terrorist group there, is awesome. The biggest misstep, in my opinion, in this movie was not casting Don Cheadle from the word go as Rhodey, because honestly, I think he's owned that role and done such an amazing job with it. It's kind of a little bit whiplash when you go and watch it, and it's not Don Cheadle. So, but Iron Man started it all. Great movie, loved it. The fight scene at the end, it was good. It's not one of the best ones, I don't think, but overall, love Iron Man. Number 7, and Guardians of the Galaxy, guys. a bunch of galactic vagabonds come together for the greater good, basically, eventually, because they all, I mean, the movie is visually spectacular. The characters are all pretty much a bunch of jerks and individually kind of unlikable. But as they come together, you really start to root for the underdog group. This bunch of jerks, as it is, so eloquent. Well, they don't say jerks in the movie, but I'm gonna call them jerks. But they call them something else in the movie. But the battle for Xandar is awesome. The banter between them is great. The point where the Nova Corps is trying to hold back Ronan, and the whole fleet just is decimated. It's a great moment in that movie. It's just very emotional, incredibly dramatic. I love this movie, and I think it's really well done. And Groot's sacrifice, I'm sorry, it's still a tearjerker. So guys, number 7 for me, Guardians of the Galaxy. Now number 8 is kind of climbed for me. I didn't like it as much as at first. Thor Ragnarok. Taika Waititi, he gets a lot of credit for the huge direction change that Thor Ragnarok took for the God of Thunder. While the character's a lot more fun, we got Thor a lot more right. He has a lot more personality, and yeah, they dumbed him down in some ways where he's goofy. That's not horrible, but he's not an idiot either, and he ends up, outplaying Loki at one point. He does a good job. He ends up outplaying Hela in this. Thor finally felt like he got some good character development. He wasn't second fiddle to Loki in this. Loki was good, but Thor was better in this movie. And he finally stepped out into his own. I almost think that this movie hopefully set up a continuation for Chris Hemsworth. I think he enjoyed the role enough that we might get a Thor 4 going forward in the cosmic universe. At least I hope so. The Thor Hulk scene was awesome. That was a great fight. Jeff Goldblum in this movie is the Grandmaster. Kate Blanchett is Hela. Of course, the immigrant song where that scene was awesome. And the end credit with Thanos arriving. The movie set up so much going forward for Thor. Thor, Loki, Odin passing away. The movie was honestly really good, and I left it at number 8, and that's definitely up for me over where I think I did this last time. It was probably still down in the teens, so it's on an uptick. Now, the next movie is climbing every time I watch it, and that's Doctor Strange. I think this movie is way underrated in the MCU. It is a really good origin movie. I love the fact that Benedict Cumberbatch nails the role as Doctor Strange. He absolutely kills it. The movie will nearly make you lose your lunch if you watching it because the visual effects, turning, changing, all the alterations to the physical world while they're in the mirror dimension. Actually, they do some in the physical dimension, and it has big problems. But anyways, the story arc of Strange, him going from this self-centered, complete jerk to basically laying himself down, not once, but suffering and dying for eternity, he's willing, it seems, so that Dormammu cannot take over the Earth and take it into the dark dimension. Absolutely incredible. Rewatched it recently, and every time I do, it creeps up the list. It's a really good movie. Like I said, very underrated in the MCU. Doctor Strange going forward is going to be fun. I can't wait for Doctor Strange 2 after Endgame. Number 10 for me is Spider-Man Homecoming, and I'm a huge Spider-Man Peter Parker fan. And for the MCU to remove the taste of Sony's The Amazing Spider-Man and to come at it from a different angle, I think that's good for everyone. Because, I hated The Amazing Spider-Man. Did not like, I don't even remember the actor's name. I really didn't like him in that role. I do enjoy Tom Holland's reprisal of Peter Parker. I think it's been a great choice. And Michael Keaton as the Vulture nailed it in Homecoming. I thought he did a great job in that role. And he had the awesome new design of the character, tying it to the Chitauri armor or Chitauri weaponry was really cool. The struggle of responsibility versus just wanting to be a hero is prevalent in the movie, and it feels, it really feels a bit odd to only have a minor hint to Uncle Ben in the movie, and MJ's not MJ. I have a personal thing to regarding the removal of gingers from Marvel comic movies. It's an epidemic, but overall, the teen angst hero movie, it's got some great scenes, but there were some scenes that honestly made me cringe. I didn't enjoy it to the degree that I really hoped I would. I'm hoping that in Far From Home coming out, I'm hoping that'll be a better movie overall than Homecoming. And we've already kind of gotten into the area of the movies where you can start switching one or two either way, and it's really not that emotionally draining. But number 11 for me is Black Panther. So taking Black Panther and look at it as just a movie, there were a couple things I really liked about Black Panther, and there was a couple things I didn't. The scene in Korea was absolutely incredible, where they're chasing Claw, and Black Panther's running up the side of the building. He's using the kinetic energy to blast the Cadillac Escalades. Absolutely amazing scene. Loved it. The world building of Wakanda itself is pretty phenomenal. Though I gotta say, it's the worst way ever to choose the leader of a country. The final battle between Killmonger, which Killmonger is phenomenal throughout it. I really like him. I think it's a little bit over the top, but it made for a great villain who was really good in the movie. But the final battle, beginning when Black Panther comes back they revive him with the snow, out of the snow, give him the purple herb again, or the heart-shaped herb, and from the point where he dons the suit through that whole battle, he's in no real danger. Everyone else is fighting around him, but he isn't. So the fight with him and Killmonger in the underground, it's too CGI for me. So ultimately, this is only number, I think, 11 for me. The overall, really good movie, but it just didn't crack the top 10 for me. Number 12 for me is one that other people, I know that they do not rank it this high, and I'm okay with that. It's Ant-Man and the Wasp. I actually really love this movie. Scott Lang, Hope Van Dyne, I like the dynamic there. Hank Pym, some of the callbacks from this movie are really good. I really enjoy Paul Rudd. I think he's hilarious. I don't remember her name right off the top of my head, but the lady that plays Hope Van Dyne, she's a good actress. I really enjoy their dynamic. They get along really well. It's just a good movie, and it's fun. It's at the end of the day, it's a really fun movie, and it's rewatchable. You watch it a few times, and it's funny every time, in my opinion. I do not like the part where they go in and get what's her name? I don't remember. But she comes in and does the magic touch on Ghost. That annoyed me. I was like, what is going on here? Suddenly Hope's mom is a mutant or some kind. I don't know. I didn't really like that part, but overall, it was a good movie. And I thought Ghost was a really, really good villain in this. She just came across really believable, and I enjoyed it. Number 13, to a similar vein, is that Guardians of the Galaxy 2. A lot of people rate this lower. I enjoy it. I enjoyed the bond between Yondu and Rocket Raccoon in this one. I enjoyed the moment that Peter Quill realizes that Ego killed his mom, and he flips that switch and just starts blowing him away. That from that point on, the movie takes off. It gets really exciting. So the Pac-Man callback, the several other ones that were really good in the movie. The scene of the the strip club with the alien things I thought was really dumb. The robots or whatever, I could have done without that. But overall, the movie was really good. There's a couple of points in it that really get you. One of them is when Yondu sacrifices himself for Peter, and the other one is when Rocket has to blast Gamora and say, "I'm not losing another friend today." I thought both those points were really, really emotional in the movie. Really liked it. A good Guardians of the Galaxy flick. This is the next one, number 14. This one goes up and down my chart. I just watched it recently, so it's kind of up there a little bit right now, but it does have some cringe moments, and that's Thor. The biggest cringe moments in this come from Jane Foster. The relationship seems forced. Some comments in it that are just like, really? That's a little bit on the nose. But overall, the movie's really good. You get the cameo from Hawkeye. You get the Frost Giant battle, which is really cool. Overall, really good movie. You get the emotional scene of Thor breaking the Bifrost. That didn't last long, did it? It's a good movie. And overall, I enjoy it. Like I said, I watched it recently, so it's probably artificially a little bit high, but it is where it is on the list, so... And honestly, this next one, number 15, Age of Ultron. Avengers Age of Ultron is probably a little bit down on the list from where I thought I probably would have put it. But the more I started thinking about it, the more that I don't really... There are scenes of this movie that I like, but there's a lot of it that is just kind of It feels like it's all designed to be going somewhere else. You get a lot of new characters out of this. You get Scarlet Witch, Quicksilver for a little bit. You get Vision out of it. Ultron was way underutilized in this movie, and that's probably one of the reasons that I don't rate this movie better. I think if Ultron comes back post Endgame or during Endgame, then there's the likelihood that this movie gets better to me. But Ultron was a wasted villain because he is far above and beyond what he is portrayed as in this movie. I am a believer that Captain America could have lifted the hammer, that it did budge, he realized it, and he didn't want to have to basically take all the ribbon for being able to lift it. I think Captain America could have lifted. I am a believer that Cap is worthy and will probably wield Mjolnir at some point during Endgame. Quote me on that one after the 25th. Number 16 on my list, I have Iron Man 2, which, honestly, this is Tony Stark's crash movie, right? This is him being a complete jerk. He kind of bottoms out. He kind of gets a little bit full of himself. And, Rhodey and his friends are there to kind of smack him around and tell him to get his head on straight. And eventually he does. The movie is decent. Don Cheadle is good in it. But it's not an impressive movie. And it introduces Black Widow, but it's a movie that really doesn't do anything for me. At the end, the War Machine Iron Man battle is interesting, but Hammer is just not a good villain. It's just annoying, and that's what I think. The Whiplash was underutilized, and in the end, it just wasn't very impressive in my opinion. Next up for me is Ant-Man, and I hadn't seen this one in a long time, but I remember really enjoying it. I remember it's a fun movie. The villain in it, the tie-ins to the 10 Rings and a couple other things, and Hank Pym in it is really good. The flashback scene of him and I can't remember his wife's name today for whatever reason, but it's really good. I enjoyed it. The relationship between Scott and his daughter, and the uneasiness between him and the new boyfriend, or I think the new husband. I think they get married at that point. It's an interesting movie. It's fun, and then watching Scott break in, steal the suit, and all that drama is just it's fun. I enjoyed it. So Ant-Man's there at number 17. Number 18 for me is Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel to me was is a decent movie. It's an okay movie. It's got some moments where I feel like the biggest one that stands out to me is the point where this big fight breaks out between Star Force and Carol Danvers, and I'm Just a Girl comes on. It just takes you out of the film, and I feel like a lot of the stuff in this movie did just that. It diverted attention away from just enjoying the movie, and that's my biggest problem with this movie. Looking at it as just the movie, though, it is a good addition to the MCU. There are some things that I wish they had done differently. The Tesseract piece, the Avengers being named after Carol Danvers, and some of those other things I thought were kind of cheesy. The biggest one, of course, is Nick Fury losing his eye the way he did. It just seems like it could have been done better. But that's it. You're kind of stuck with it now. So Captain Marvel at 18. Rounding the bottom three, I've got Thor: Dark World, which just is. Thor: Dark World reminded me of Blade, where at the end, anytime you end up fighting a big glob of celestial whatever, it's just not fun, okay? The same thing, it's just too much CGI. It takes away from the greater storyline. You don't get this. It just wasn't fun. It wasn't good. Loki is very good in that movie, and he's exceptional. Tom Hiddleston nails it. But that's 19 for me. Number 20, Iron Man 3. Iron Man 3 and number 21 is Hulk. Honestly, 20 and 21, you can switch back and forth. Hulk's not a bad movie. It's just it hasn't aged well. And Iron Man 3 to me is just, I hated the end of it. I hated it so bad. The Flaming Pepper Potts piece and him destroying the Iron Legion, getting the it's been a point that he had the arc reactor in his chest, and now we're going to take it out now. Well, why didn't we do that earlier? Was that because I thought we couldn't? I thought that was part of it. Number 21 is The Incredible Hulk, just mostly because it's a chore, different actor. It's a clunky movie. It's decent. It's by no means a supremely bad movie. It's just there's so many things left hanging out of it. Storylines that we're never going to get pursued, like the leader, or we don't think they're going to be pursued. But the Abomination's still out there in the MCU. It's just not fun to watch. But I don't know. That's my list, guys. So just to break it down one more time, starting at the top: Infinity War, then Winter Soldier, Civil War. Number 4 is Avengers. Number 5 is Captain America, the first Avenger. Number 6, Iron Man. 7, Guardians of the Galaxy. 8, Ragnarok. 9, Doctor Strange. 10, Spider-Man Homecoming. 11 is Black Panther. 12, Ant-Man and the Wasp. 13, Guardians of the Galaxy 2. 14, Thor. 15, Avengers Age of Ultron. 16, Iron Man 2. 17, Ant-Man. 18, Captain Marvel. 19, Thor: Dark World. 20, Iron Man 3, and 21, the Hulk. So guys, tell me what you think. I'm sure you don't disagree or you don't agree with something on here, and feel free to leave it down in the comments below. These things change for me. Honestly, I'll get into a character and it will creep up the list. Doctor Strange is a good example of that on the list. I just watched that movie 2 nights ago, or last night or 2 nights ago. I've been sick, so I've been watching a lot of movies. But I watched that, and I go back, and there's no real faults in that movie. It's a good movie. Also watched Captain America again recently, and I really enjoyed it. I'll say of the movies I haven't seen in probably the longest time is the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie, Ant-Man, Thor: A Dark World, and probably Hulk. Everything else I've seen relatively recently. And so I'll probably rewatch those here in the near future, maybe before Endgame next week, and just have those fresh on my mind as I get ready to go see that. So what I'll probably try to do, I'm going to guess that Endgame's probably going to end up number 1 or number 2 on this list. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. And want to hear what you guys think. Give me your top 10 down at the bottom, at least. what do you specifically disagree with on my list, other than you're crazy? And hope you guys enjoyed it. That's all I got for now. Tell me what you think, and if you aren't, hey, consider subscribing and leaving a like below. That's all I got, guys. Real Comic Stacks out.